Welcome to Meet the Maker, where I, Anna, take you all over southwestern Ontario and we get to meet all of these beautiful farmers and producers that make all of the food that we eat. On top of that, I will always take ingredients for something that they have and make a gorgeous meal out of them. Today we went to Crunican Orchards and we're making this beautiful apple rye cake with a maple caramel icing from maple that I made earlier this year. We're really leaning into the idea of eating the seasons and getting to know where our food comes from. We're gonna learn really fun things like what's the deal with apples during wartime? What happened to apples during Prohibition? And whatever could glaciers have to do with good apple production? We're gonna find all of that and more on today's episode of Meet the Maker, and I'm so excited to have you. So come along, let's first head over to Crunican Orchards, and then we're gonna come back to the kitchen and make this beautiful cake. I can't wait to dig in. We've made it to the orchard and we're here to find Phil Crunican. His family has been farming apples on this land since 1910. So if there's anyone who knows about apples, it's gonna be Phil. I was coming in hot with my first question about soil conditions. And your brother was telling me that over here, like where we are, it used to be like a glacier.
Sure. So 20,000 years ago, so there would be a glacier here. There's actually a moraine less than a mile away from here. So a moraine is what the glacier pukes out at the end. So stones and ice, and so it builds this little mountain, and there's one just a mile, there's two away from here. And
what? That's so cool. And having that, does that affect the soil conditions? Like,
so right here, we're on more of a stony ridge. So if you go a mile east of us, there's actually a gravel pit, and there's another gravel pit a couple miles west of here, directly west. So we're kind of in a line here. So you can say this was probably the end of the glacier at one point. It kind of sat here for a lot of years, and everything melted and kind of sat here, and then it retreated quicker.
Affect your growing conditions with the apples here?
So yeah, again, we've got a beautiful soil, clay loam type. It has a lot of stones in the ground, so it does help for a natural filtration, like gets the water away from trees. Don't like wet feet, like they don't like wet roots, so you need to get that water through the ground and out and down and filtering into your groundwater.
How do you find that people's connection or lack of connection with the seasons affect how you're able to kind of really share with them and like give them the best produce at the best time?
So, it's happened in the last 3 or 4 generations. People have become disconnected to the farm because they no longer have an aunt or an uncle or a grandpa that owns a farm. Everybody's so disconnected now. We're probably 2 or 3 generations disconnected from a farm, so they don't understand the seasons, and things come ready at a certain time, and they have to be picked within a certain window of time. That's why we have 20 different varieties of apples, is they all come ready at a different time, and that allows us to pick them at their peak flavor.
Luckily, I was just in time to see the ginger golds being picked. I really wanted to know how long it took for an apple to grow.
The time from blossom to picking is pretty even every year for every variety. So whether this is a 100-day from blossom to picking, that doesn't change much year to year. So it's all about the day they start to blossom in May to when you can kind of pick a date when you might start picking in August. These started picking in August. So, yeah.
So do you feel like, is it kind of exciting in early May when you start seeing them blossom? Like, oh no, it's go time.
It's go time. That's right. You've been building up to it, that's for sure. So you better be ready to go.
So of course I had to give apple picking a try. The key is to move them so their bottom is to the sky, and then you give them a gentle twist. They pluck right off. I keep asking everybody, what's your favorite apple? And I consistently get told my favorite apple depends on which season it is. And I never really thought of apples that way. And the people here have such a love of them and such a deep knowledge of these apples. It has been so exciting talking to people about them. And now if someone was to ask me, Anna, what's your favorite apple? I would say, if you're asking me in September, then probably golden ginger is probably my favorite apple. The last stop out on the farm was probably my favorite stop. We went over to see a 100-year-old apple tree. This was one of the first apple trees planted by the Crunican family here in 1910. This is a Grabenstein tree, and it's the same apples that we will later use in our cake. And the energy coming from this tree was incredible. You can really feel the over 100 years of wisdom being held in this mighty tree. No trip to Crunican's is complete without going to their farm store. They just celebrated 75 years of having the storefront. They used to sell through their farmhouse basement. They not only sell their apples, but also a variety of local produce and goods. The youngest generation of Crunican's have made hard cider too that is available in the store, and it is fantastic. Now that we've got our goods, let's head back to the kitchen. This cake has like half a kilo of apples in it. And honestly, I don't think that there's anything better than using fresh ingredients from local farms at the right season. And that's what this whole channel is about. It's about really enjoying the seasonality of things, eating the freshest fruit at the right time. Make sure that you have the most delicious product. Like the start of any good cake, you're gonna go and put the oven at 350 degrees. And after the oven is on, you're gonna go ahead and get your cake pan ready. Just the usual, we're gonna butter it, and then we're gonna use like a little parchment disc on the bottom to really make sure that this baby doesn't stick in there, okay? Let's get to it. I'm gonna set my prepared pan aside and let's get together all of the other ingredients that we're gonna need for this cake. Now you're gonna get your pan out and we're gonna start by toasting our pecans. You can use different types of nuts here, but I thought that pecans would be really delicious in this because they're so nutty and flavorful, and they have just kind of this rich, like dark caramel flavor to them that I thought would be perfect with everything else we have going on. Once your nuts are perfectly toasted, you're going to want to take them off the pan and put them into a little bowl like this. Look, nuts are very sensitive, okay? You don't want to have little burnt nuts going around everywhere. You're gonna ruin your dish. So make sure you take them off the heat and then take them off the pan, put them somewhere nice and relaxing for them to hang out while we get our flour together and get going with the rest of the things for the cake. For this recipe, you're going to need 1 cup of flour and half a cup of rye flour. And now for one of the things that makes this cake extra special is we're gonna use some rye flour to just give it some beautiful depth of flavor here. Make sure that you are using regular rye flour, not dark rye flour. There's light and then there's dark. The difference is basically like using white flour versus whole wheat flour. You might get more intensity of flavor in a dark rye flour, of course, but it's not going to have the same kind of light texture that we're after for this cake. So we're gonna go ahead and use half a cup of light rye flour. Let's put our flour aside while we deal with the rest of our ingredients. Now that we've properly dealt with our nuts, we're going to put them in the food processor. You wanna make sure that they're nice and cool. If not, the heat will kind of mess with the texture of this next part. You're also gonna add 3/4 cups of white sugar into your food processor. To that same container, you're going to add your 1 teaspoon of salt and 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda. And in that same container, we're gonna add 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. It goes. And 1/4-ish, I like to add a little bit more because I'm a spicy gal, of allspice. So like, this is, you know, I'll show you. You see, it's not like really a whole 1/2 teaspoon, but it's definitely more than a 1/4 teaspoon. So you know, eyeball it. When it comes to spices in any of the recipes that I give you, I will give you a starting point, but it's for you and your family, and nobody knows what they like better than you do. So just use my seasonings as kind of a guideline. But if you don't want to think about it, okay, trust your girl and put in 1 teaspoon of cinnamon and 1/4 almost a little bit more than a quarter teaspoon of allspice. Okay, we're done with the spice. On to the next bit. At this point, our mixture is ready to have a little bit of a blitz go on with it. So we're gonna give it a buzz until the texture is kind of like a coarse sand.
Once you get to that coarse sand texture, you're gonna go ahead and add in 2 large eggs.
Now we're gonna add some roughly chopped dates, about 135 grams. And by rough, I mean like you on a Saturday morning after thinking you can still drink rough, okay? You really don't have to like make this anything. It's just really easy. You're just chopping them up to make it easier for your food processor to do its thing. That's it. Transfer the dates into our food processor. I have a food processor for ants, so this is a bit of a tight squeeze, but if you have a normal sized food processor, you'll be totally fine squeezing everything in here. And now for the dreaded words of your favorite Pilates teacher, we pulse. What you're after here is just this beautiful paste.
You're gonna dunk your paste right into that beautiful prepared flour mixture that we put together earlier.
We just want to make sure that we have the whole paste folded in, but we don't want to overmix this. It's already gonna be like a little heavy of a batter because of the rye flour, and we want to make sure that we're just not building any gluten. So it's just a very gentle, nice little stir in. This is what you want it to look like. It's kind of like a dough, like if you were gonna make a gingerbread or something like that. You see how I haven't fully stirred it in and I don't have all of the flour streaks worked out? I did that on purpose because we're going to have to mix in the apples and I really don't want to overwork this dough. We don't want to develop any gluten. So let's put this aside, get our apples going, and we're almost there. Oh, I'm so excited. Honestly, this is one of the best cakes I've ever made. And I love showing really yummy things to people. Like, my favorite thing is to be like, oh my God, this is delicious, eat it. So this is just, okay. I'll stop rambling, let's get to these apples. The star of the show. I have some beautiful Gravenstein apples that I have from that 100-year-old apple tree you guys saw. And I am so excited to use them. Oh my gosh. Like they are just so beyond fragrant. And I chose this apple because it is sharp in its flavor. It is the perfect balance between acidic and sweet and pungent and very appley. Super floral, just the most wonderful apple. So these apples are Gravenstein, as I said, and they are no longer available for you to go and get. By the time this video is out, Gravenstein season is over. But you will want to start looking for any type of apple that has a sharp flavor and a firm body. I don't know when you're gonna watch this, so I can't really tell you which apple to pick, but I can tell you firm body, and you want to make sure that is a little bit more on the acidic side. Really bright, highly flavorful. That's what you're gonna go for because we have a lot of flavors going on in this cake. We have the allspice, the cinnamon, the rye. We really don't want the apples to get lost in the sauce. I mean, they are the star of the show because we're gonna have in here, and it's kind of like inordinate, but I mean, hello, this is an apple video, half a kilo, about 1.5 pounds of apples. So it's gonna get a little appley up in here. So let's get to the peeling, coring, and dicing of our apples. For me, 680 grams, which is about 1.5 pounds, gives you 4 of these Gravenstein apples. Did you know that these apples are low-key political? During the Second World War, the government went around to all sorts of fruit farms in the province and said, hey, it's wartime, get rid of your fruit. We're gonna start growing only the most important things. And they said no. At Crunican Orchards, they're like, no, we're not gonna rip up our apple trees. They have been here since the 1800s. Not happening. And I think that's beautiful. I think that's such a dedication to the cause. And they were able to keep their apple trees. And in a time of difficulty, they still had a sweet treat to give to their community. And I think that is just such a wonderful act of resistance in food in such a loving way, because they knew that A, the war was not going to be forever, and B, that the community needed something more, needed some sweetness, some apple, some fun. So I just think that is amazing. And now here we are, well post-war, these trees are still there. And I think that is just so much fun. And that is not the only time that apples were controversial here in Ontario. During Prohibition, the government went around and started pulling out apple trees from apples that would have been commonly used to make cider. So in the back of farms, you will often find a bunch of these spectacular apple trees that are like the perfect cider making trees, because farmers would like hide their apples way out in the back of the bush. And I also think that is amazing. Like every time I think about apples, I usually see them as kind of like, you know, like a kid fruit, like this happy little innocent fruit. But here we know that these fruits are a lot more than that. They have these long, complex stories. And apples, they're not even native here to the Americas. I know that we think fall apples, but not really. They're actually native out to Western Asia. So think Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, that area of the world. And honestly, anytime I get a cute little story about resistance and about kind of sticking to your guns because you know that what you're doing is so important, so necessary, I love that. I can't get enough of that kind of story. This is the fun part. Time to take off all of your rings. And that includes wedding bands and quinceañera rings, all of your rings, okay? We are going to go ahead and mix in these apples by hand. Make sure your hands are clean, okay, and wet. It'll really help with the process because this is a pretty thick dough. This is a lot of apples that we have going in here. I'm gonna do half at a time and just get in there and kind of mix it in. You really don't want to be over mixing this, but you do want to get lots and lots and lots of apple in here. Now that your dough basically resembles a fritter, we're going to put that into our pan. We're using the exact same method with our wet hands to pour this in here and press it down nice and flat into the pan. So our cake is gonna take about 70 to 80 minutes to bake. A whole lifetime, I know. Now for the exciting part, we're gonna make our maple butter glaze. I'm so happy to do this because this maple syrup I made myself this March. And it's so fun when you make your own syrup and when you start kind of really grooving with the seasons. I had no idea that I would start to film for YouTube when I started making this syrup, so it's just so exciting to see where it has taken me. And I also think it's fun that you see maple as kind of a fall kind of flavor, but really maple is made in the early spring. So I just kind of find it fun how you see those kind of quirks about like kind of perceptions, I guess, of seasonality. But we're gonna get our maple syrup on the stove at around medium-high heat. We have half a cup that went in here and we're just gonna boil it down a little bit and kind of create more of those sugars that we have. There, we are almost done. That is where we're looking for our maple to be. Just like that. You want to make sure you keep stirring. You don't want to scorch this maple. It is basically there. Okay, from here we're gonna add 45 grams or 3 tablespoons of butter. And you want to make sure your butter is at room temp. Beautiful. This is exactly what we're after, is this gorgeous color and this kind of thick texture that still kind of moves but is really nice and thick. And to this, now that it's almost done, we're gonna add some nice bits of salt. There we go. Our cake is ready. It is out of the oven and it has cooled down. Time to take it out, flip it over, and start decorating. Here's our cake. I'm so excited about it. Okay, this cake really needs to cool down fully before you open it. It's kind of delicate because of all of the water from all the apple. There wasn't that much cake holding it together. So now that it's nice and cool, we can flip it over. Okay, we have our cake. I had it flipped face down first, but honestly, it's so beautiful with the pieces of apple face up. So I flipped it back over and I surrounded it with some beautiful marigolds just to really fall into the theme. And now we're just going to drizzle it with some of our caramel sauce. You can decide how much of the caramel you want on here. I'm just gonna do kind of a gentle little drizzle. I don't think I want too much of it. I'm not really that big of a sweet tooth, so I'm gonna try to keep it kind of like a gentle drizzle. Time for my favorite part of every project. Taste testing. Okay, let's give her a go. I am so excited. Let's try this. Oh my god, it's so good. Mmm. It's not very much like a modern cake, you know, that's like really fluffy. I mean, it's still fluffy. It's just very like, it's giving old school. Mmm. That caramel maple sauce just really brings it all together. And the apples just come out so deliciously. Choosing those apples. Mmm. Oh my god. No, this is so good. I really hope you guys make this at home and that you learned something today about apples. I'm so excited to share this journey with you guys. We're gonna eat so much and learn so much, and this is gonna be a ton of fun. I can't wait for all the eating we're about to do.